Greetings family, Rohbat Muisar, and welcome to another OSM Vision, because our souls matter. Remember, you can help us by liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, and most of all, hitting that notification bell so that we can keep you updated on everything and everything Wu-Sabat. Today we're going to look at the Proverbs of Yaanuwn, okay? You should be familiar with the word Proverbs. What is a proverb? A proverb is normally a short statement or short saying, a word that is very profound and it's been passed on or known by many people by generations and timelines because it conveys profound truth in some way. A bit like the term you hear when people say riddles or a saying. You just say something short, but it has some kind of impactful meaning. And, Parnabab Yaanuwn teaches in this way, just like Jesus also taught, and it would be like, if you got it, you got it. If you don't get it, you don't get it. Something such as, you shouldn't take pearls and throw them to swine. Or one of the ones that come to my mind from, say, Parnabab Yaanuwn, the sayings is, if two people wish to receive milk from a cow, it is not wise for them to cut the cow in half because they're fighting amongst themselves. You see what I mean? So although that's a very simple thing to say, and that's in our Partarak or Partaruk, the way, if you're going to fight and argue over the cow and you decided the best thing to do is to cut it in half, which would seem like a sensible suggestion at first, because there are two people, you cut it in half and you have 50%, I'll have 50%. But actually what you're doing when you look into it in detail, it makes no sense, because what you're actually going to do is unalive the cow and now none of you have milk. So at first it may seem like, oh, that's a great solution, but in further introspective, you see that it doesn't make sense. So it is better to cooperate basically and share turns, or when you milk the cow, you then share the milk, as opposed to fighting over it and then deciding the best thing to do is to cut it in half. I think there was another situation where, from a biblical story, where somebody was trying to claim a baby to be theirs, or two women were fighting that the baby belongs to them. And the wise man, or whoever was making the decision at the time, I can't remember, I think it might have been Solomon. Anyway, he decided to cut the baby in half and give to the two women, knowing with the wisdom that the mother that went, no, don't do that, let her have it, let her have the baby, would be the real owner of that baby, because the love for the baby would mean that she would rather give the baby up to the other woman than to have it unalived. You see, so when we're dealing with proverbs or we're dealing with riddles, these are profound statements or words that, are so simple to remember, but they're gonna get to the point. Another one I remember is Nicodemus in the Bible, or the biblical story, where I think Jesus was telling him that you have to be born again to enter the kingdom of God, or something along those lines. And he was like, how can a big man like me, grown, do I need to re-enter my mother and then be born again? You see, these are the types of things where you say something and you can tell straight away by the reaction or how somebody received that information. Like, you're like, because I said you have to be born again doesn't mean you have to go back into your mother and then be born again. Come on, think about it. How can a big grown man like, your size go back through the hole that you came through, where it was really difficult to even get you out because of your head alone coming through that? So imagine you now as a big man going back. So what I'm saying is, it's like, you say something, those who get it will get it. To be born again of the Holy Spirit, or to be born again of the soul, and not physically, that's what the real interpretation was. So today we're going to get into the Proverbs of Yaanuwn, right? Because Yaanuwn is the most intelligent being on the planet right now, in the personage of Dr. Malachi Z.K. York. And the introduction starts out, I, Parnabab Yaanuwn, the etheric part of Malachi Kobina Okran York, as was Al-Qadir, the etheric part of Isa al-Hadi al-Mahdi. We entered his body Tuesday, June 26, 1945 AD, to instruct you from 1970 AD, the opening of the seated truths, okay, and 2000 AD breaking of the Hajj Chalel Galan, spell of ignorance. So it's saying Yaanuwn is the etheric part of Malachi, Kobina, Okran, York. Okay? So when we talk about Pa Nabab Yaanuwn, yeah, Pa Nabab Yaanuwn. Yaanuwn is spelled in many different ways, or Yananan, right? When we say Pa Nabab Yaanuwn, we're saying this being is an etheric or an Etherean, yeah? It's an etheric, the etheric ether part of Dr. Malachi. And those who don't know the terms, they will say Malachi, but it's Malachi, yeah? We say ZK York. So the K is for Kobina, born on Tuesday, yeah? The Z, as we've mentioned many times, Zodok or Zedek, because one thing you know about me when it comes to the language, I always emphasize about the vowels, right? So when you say Zedek, you're saying Zodok, right? So when you say Melchizedek, the Zedek is the Zodok. Melchizedek, this bit, you can see how it ties into the Malachi, right? And the book of Malachi in the last or the Old Testament, as people refer to it, is explaining about Malachi, yeah? Go to chapter 4, verse 2. Malachi 4, verse 2. Read that because it talks about the time period of this being coming. Now, it says that as Yaanuwn is the etheric part of Malachi, so was the being known as Al-Kadir, K-H, right? Al is really Khadir, yeah, the R is rolled and the KH, right? Al-Khadir was the being, the etheric part again, right? The etheric part of the being that was teaching us during the school of Islam as Isa. Isa al-Hadi, yeah, because remember that the bloodline is significant, yeah, Isa al-Hadi, and then it goes on to being al-Mahdi. Because again, right, when we talk about al-Mahdi, these names are all very significant, okay? They're all significant because they give you a clue, an answer to the being that will be coming, because people are waiting for the Mahdi. But the Mahdi has already come. I know there's a fake one parading around now on the internet as saying he's the true Mahdi. Just like there are many people claiming to be titles that don't belong to them. The same thing here. This Isa is again what they're using in Arabic for the being. They say in Christianity is Jesus, and that becomes Yahshua, who is spelled in many, some people spell it in many different ways, but the title is important because Pa Nabab Yaanuwn in this day and time is the etheric part of Malachi Z Kobina York. The Z deals with Zodok as in Melchizedek, because Melchizedek, right, was the king, yeah, the king of peace, the king of peace, all right? Whereas the person they know as Jesus was a prince. So whatever way you want to look at it, a prince is a son or a child of a king, not the other way around. And when you start to look at this Melchizedek, this being Moses walked with, and all the beings of any significance in religion were after the order, right? Again, the word order, very important, because order deals with a protocol, a formula, a way that is orderly, okay, not chaos. And his name alone tells you of who he is, because his grandfather's name, or his grandfather, was the Mahdi, all right? His father's name was Hadi. So as you can see, it's like when a child is born and given a name, the naming convention to tie you down to the bloodline is he is the son of this person, right? So Isa is the son of this person, and this person is the son of this person. That's how you trace the bloodline. Okay, let's carry on. So the introduction is telling you that Pa Nabab Yaanuwn, the etheric part of Malachi Kobina Okran York, and Al-Khidir, the etheric part of Isa Al-Hadi Al-Mahdi. And he says, we entered, right? So they entered the body of this child, Malachi, or shall I say on Tuesday. Tuesday, that's why the name Kobina, right? On Tuesday, June 26, 1945. Again, the date is important because prophecy would tell you that the reformer, to reform something. The reformer, al-Mujaddid, the reformer would come 100 years, exactly 100 years after the Mahdi. And go back and check out 1945 and go back 100 years and you will find out that his grandfather was the person that he passed, and then 100 years after him came Isa al-Hadi al-Mahdi. But let's keep going. And the seventh seal was broken in the year 1970 because dates are important. Even though we're using the Gregorian calendar, this is how you work out things because we're talking about in 1970, so after 1945 of him being born, in 1970, the seventh seal was broken, right? When we say seventh seal, you read that again in the book of Revelation because it talks about the time period where a seal will be broken, meaning that the information and the knowledge that was hidden away and was sealed, was sealed until the appropriate time, which would be 1970, right? This is AD, to be released. And this information, this knowledge, this information will be released to the world. And in religion, they explain this as when the truth comes, all false things shall perish. So from 1970 AD to the year 2000 AD, 2000 AD, that's a period of 30 years, right? And within that 30 years, a lot of information will be released. And then by the year 2000 AD, that's referred to as, between 1970 AD and 2000 AD is referred to as the first half hour symbolically, because the 30 is representing 30 minutes. And then you have another 30 minutes, which makes up an hour, symbolically, 1 hour, and that 1 hour is another 30 years from the year 2000 to the year 2030 AD. So you're living in the period right now of what we call the second half hour, where this information, this right knowledge is being administered to the world, where that's the period where the spell will be broken, because as of the year 2000, that's when the new cycle, you can say circle, but the new cycle will begin of the next 24,000 years. All right. Okay, so the opening of the truths and 2000 AD breaking of the spell of ignorance. Al-Qadir yielded way for myself as he left you all with the holy tablets. Now, the Holy Tablets is a book that anyone who's ever read it or got their hands on it will tell you had made things so clear that none of the religious books could express in the way that the Holy Tablets does. And this book was prophesied as the Book of Lamb by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad of the Nation of Islam. And he told his followers to look out for this book that will have a new Arabic and it will be coming. And the lamb, the L, represents the lamb, because when you look at Arabic, that's the lamb, which is, if you turn it the other way, you will see that the renewing of our story started. So he's basically saying that the Holy Tablets was left. And now, from the time Al-Qadir left that Holy Tablets, it says here, I will leave you with the keys to unlock the next 24,000 Shamut-at years, the hereafter, the end of the last cycle of 24,000 Shamut-at years, ending in the year 2000 AD of the year 4000 BC, or 6,000 Shamut-at years, the last quarter of the 24,000 year cycle. All right, so what it's basically saying is that when you look at a circle or cycle, right, if you break it into 4 parts, you would look at, let's say you're starting here, and you're going, let's say this first quarter is representative of 6,000 years, and the others are the same, right? So you've got 6,000, 6,000, 6,000, plus another 6,000. But as you're doing this rotation, you're going 6,000 years, 6,000 years, 6,000 years, then the final 6,000 years to start the cycle again. Yeah, so you're going that way. And so when you get to this one, it's the last one before you start a new cycle again from here. And that would have been the year 2000 when you've done 24,000. So you start a new cycle. And so if you counted backwards to 4,000 years prior, yeah, you count, let's say, about here, then you count to 2,000 years, that would be the end of this last 6,000 years before you start the new 24,000 years, which starts again on the rotation, okay? That's what that was explaining. So the last quarter of the 24,000 year cycle, and now the time, the Wakut time has come. Blessed be this Zamut day and this Wakut time, as well as the Makan place, and all of you Musbatu Sabians you secret Ba'a'u souls and Ka'a'u spirits, as well as their Katat'at bodies, turning you all, my beloved children of Wu-Sabat. I say this as Pahanabab Yaanuwn, the winds bids me to depart from this Madrar realm soon, right? So Pahanabab Yaanuwn, may be departing from this realm soon, and why it's important for us to come together and unite under one to free the body, the personage of Malachi. So it says, I am not the Rawak wind, yet like it I must move on. We, Murzaku, ones who provide, the providers, ever seeking the needs, begin no place where we have ended it, and the same as we met it. Okay, so things will never be the same once they enter it. They change or bring new, like the evergreen tree. They live on. There's no beginning or ending. It's constant transformation. Not long enough was my Wakut time with you all in this skin suit. Yet and still my Madat words are needed to completely heal you all, both physically and mentally, to break the Hajjah spell. Yet the needed pill was to you as sound, Miss Batia, right? Miss Batia is the tones. Miss Batia, or we say Sabah, yeah? Sabaik, right? So the Miss Batia, or the word Miss Batia, right? Sabaik, it's the Alad cure. So this is the cure, because many will try to, as I was saying, imitate or try to be who they're not. Many people claim to be Jesus or Yeshua, or many people claim to be the Mahdi, or many people claim to be Melchizedek. Many people claim a lot of things. But when you're dealing with language, right? Yeah, when you're dealing with language, that is the tone, yeah, and vibration that is needed to heal you. And not many can claim to have the three tones in one, to be able to have that vibration or that tone that can penetrate your being and heal you, or to open gateways, stargates, etc. So he's telling you here, this is why when I put this lamb here, as prophesied by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad of the Nation of Islam, that new song, yeah, that would be sung, that is what we're calling Miss Batia, or the language. Because it's not just about lip service in the sense of you just talking and talking. Can you break down the languages, right? Do you have that double-edged sword? People think when you say sword, right, they think it's about a weapon, as in having a sword, right? But it's the sacred, or the S word, right? Because when you look at, when I said the double-edged tone, right? People will look at that as, trying to draw this as best as I can, like a sword, you know, which you hold in your hand. As in when people bought a sword, right? When I said a double-edged sword, we're talking about the tongue, yeah? If you look at the tongue of a person, I'm really trying with my drawings today, so bear with me. Like, let's say that's a person's, that's terrible. Right, let's just say that's the tongue, okay? All right, tongue. Okay, so if you look at the sword and you look at the tongue, a double-edged right? So this is the edge of the tongue, and that's the other edge, yeah? Like a sword, where you have the sword, and you have that. But it's not talking about a sword like this. It's talking about your tongue with the words that you can break down in the different languages. So like in Arabic and Hebrew, being able to translate the Arabic of the Quran, the Hebrew of the Old Testament, the Latin, basically being able to break down languages. And no coincidence, Dr. York studied languages. He's a linguist, right? Studied, his degrees are in languages as a linguist from the University of Khartoum in Egypt. And he is able to give us back our tongue, our tones, which is the cure. And he has those 3 tones in one that can resonate in a vibration that when you hear it, it can heal you. When you read his words, when it's time to travel, you can open gates, stargates, which also ties into Saba, which becomes the Queen of Sheba because the women spoke first, tying to the same language, Sabaik. Okay, let's keep going. Miss Batia, Sabaik. It's the cure. Yet if my voice fades in your Abab heart and my divine love vanishes in your Zakara Irat memories, that is a relapse. Speak your shafat tui, lips. See, so when you talk about tongue, you're dealing with lips. Use your lips, your tongue to speak. Your lasan, tongue. Your vocal cords, akal, mind, and ibab, heart, and you will be cured by it. I will ever return to you ever and ever as mawat. Death will hide my katat, body, from you. Each madat, word spoken, raises me among you all if remembered by you, each of you. I am with you in each image of me. Say that one more time. Basically saying, if you remember the word, speak the language, the words he's taught you, the words you've read, that will raise him amongst us if remembered by each of us. And that recite the words, each image of him is physically with you when you read or recite Madat at words given to you as in this Mimshal proverb. So this proverb, he's telling you, I am with you, yet before I depart, you must have the right knowledge, the right wisdom, the right understanding that gives you the right overstanding, okay, which leads to sound, right reasonings, breaking the spell of ignorance. So when we keep telling people that they're under a spell, yeah, a spell which was casted on them like 6,000 years ago. So, you know, from this 6,000 years ago, the spell of you not knowing your language, but new words, as in spellings being replaced with the truth 6,000 years ago, put you under a spell where you don't know anything anymore. You don't really know the truth. And so that's why by learning this information from us on OSM Vision, Wu-Sabat takes you to the point where the spell of ignorance is broken. And many of our race, Salau, race, have come, okay, this is what I was saying, that many people come making claims to be this or that, but don't have the tones, don't have the language, don't break down the scriptures in the original languages, don't give you the original tones, can't open stargates, tying into the word Sabaik or Saba, tying into Sabatat, right? Tying into the females who spoke first 54,000 years ago. So they come, many people come in our race, as in the Nubian race or Nagar Nadu, yeah, Negroid. They come making many claims, teaching things in one way or the other, still related to and from the English translations, mistranslations of the Bible and the Quran. Before Isa al-Hadi al-Mahdi and Malachi Kobina Okranyo came with his outformation. Again, we always teach things where people go, what does that mean? formation. Okay, so out formation is what you need instead of information, which has had your minds trapped. Because when you say information, you're basically get information, but out formation is coming from outside into the planet Earth, into your head, into your being, into you. Okay, so these people that came claiming all sorts, claiming to be all types of leaders, they meant well, and some did great works, yet their followers remain mu'abadu, slaves of a mental death. Because remember that these words, information, what they do is they put you under a spell where your mind is trapped or entrapped mentally, right? That's what we mean when we say you're trapped mentally and physically. Yes, that's what happens. Physically and mentally, you're trapped. So you remain a slave of a mental death, still in some way, shape or kind believe in the religions of Moshe, Moses, Musa. This work I, Parnabab Yaanuwn, call Parmim Shalat, the Proverbs. This proverb will heal you if you will read with an open akal, mind, right, and heart. And he says, don't believe me, check it out. So if you're going to read, the proper heart is, this is what I say to you, with Wu-Sabat, we give it to you correctly, because for years they've turned things backwards. So this is what the true ashuk or heart goes, it goes upwards, not the back to front one that that's like that. Okay, so this is dealing with the 9 raising upwards, this is dealing with 6 as in ether. All right, so we're walking slow today, we're walking slow because the Proverbs of Yaanuwn is the one you need. And I'll say it again in his own words. It says, this Proverbs will heal you if you will read with an open mind and heart. Don't believe me, check it out. Okay, so that was just the introduction. We may have to do a few parts to this, but the foreword is prehistory, right? So that's before his story, is before the stories of Bible and its creation of the first man story. Yet these are not the creation stories of Nagarnadu, Negroids, Mudravadu, Indians, Mongalu, Asians. Genesis 1:1, it says, Elohim. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. King James Version, 1611 AD. Numbers 13:32 to 33. Anakim, yeah, long neck gods. And it reads 32, and they brought up an evil report of the land which they had searched unto the children of Israel, saying, the land through which we have gone to search it is a land that eateth up the inhabitants thereof. And all the people that we saw in it are men of a great stature. 33, and there we saw the giants, the son of Anak. So when we say Anakim, right? Anakim is the same words as Anunnaki, Anakim. And in the Bible, it talks about the son of Anak, right? Because remember, pluralization, as in Elohim, right? So I gave you that first quote where it says Elohim or Elohim. And that was Genesis 1:1 when it's saying gods. Yeah, it's talking about these Elohim, gods. And then where we've just read in Numbers 13:32, it's talking about Anakim. But 33 says, and there we saw the giants, the son of Anak, which come of the giants. And we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sights. King James Version again. Genesis 1:26 to 27, and it says, Adam, ruddy man. Yeah, Adam meaning red. So what we're saying is Adam means ruddy, red. So this is talking about one of the creation. So what we're saying is that these books, they teach and talk about the books of Moses, and they're really talking about a creation of the first man. Yeah. So prehistory, that's before the stories of the Bible and its creation of the first man story. That first man story is the Adam story. And but the Nagaru, the Negroids, the Asians predate that. But let's keep going. And it says that Adam, which means ruddy man, Genesis 26, and God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. Verse 27. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. Okay. And Genesis 4:16 talks about the Nodites, which means wanderers or to wander. And that goes into the story of Cain and Abel. And it says in Genesis 4 verse 16, and Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and dwelt in the land of Nod on the east of Eden. All right, let's keep going. Genesis 4 verse 17, you see the word Enoshites, which means to initiate. Okay, 17, and Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bore a child, or bore Enoch, and he builded a city and called the name of the city after the name of his son, Enoch. Okay, and we keep going. Genesis 5 verse 7, the Sethites, which Seth means to substitute. Okay, so it says, and Seth, that's Genesis 5:7, and Seth lived after he begat Enos 807 years and begat sons and daughters. All of this is King James Version, 1611 AD. Genesis 5:10, Enoshites, forgetful. That's what the word Enos means, the Enoshites, forgetful, mortal. 10, and Enos lived after he begat Canaan 815 years and begat sons and daughters. King James. Genesis 6:4, the Nephilites, the fallen ones, right? The Nephilims. 4, there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men. So these are the sons of God coming in unto the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. The same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown. Okay, King James. Genesis 6:5, the Giborites. The Giborites means tyrants. 5, and God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. All right, then you go on to Genesis 6, talks about the Noahites, right? Noah, dealing with the flood, the Noahites, it means to rest down upon something. 9, these are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man and perfect in his generations, and Noah walked with God. That's Genesis 6:9. The Shemites, the Hamites, Japhethites, right? So you're going back to the sons of Noah, right? So Genesis 11 verses 10 to 27 talks about the Shemites, and then the Hamites 10 verse 15 to 19, and Japhethites Genesis 10 2 to 5. So you get Hebrew, or the Abrahamites, Arabs, Ishmaelites, the Canaanites, the Jews, the Israelites, cursed lepers, all in Genesis 10 verse 15 to 19. All right, then you get the belief systems that come from that. So when we're talking about what people call the 5 books of Moses, you're really talking about Mosesism, right? And Jesusism, which is Christianism. Then you got the Mohammedism, which is dealing with obviously the Muslim and Jewishism. The religious history of the Mulbanu Salal white race and their original gods were Muthatalu, extraterrestrials, Mukraju, aliens, who made Adam by mixing their own Yakhasat genes with Nordics on Tammuz 6th, that's the 6th month. Yeah, on the 6th day, the year was 3761 BC. Okay, so that's what I was saying, like on this cycle that you're going round, even though they've tried to reverse things and teach you the clock goes from right to left, really the cycle goes that way. And he's saying around, what about here? Yeah, 3700 and where is it? 3761 BC. So that would be BC, before Christ. That's why we say when you add this 2,000 years, yeah, the last 2,000 years from 4,000 years gives you this 6,000 years. So that's what we're talking about when we round it off and we say 4,000 BC. Okay, so the end of the Adamites 6,000 year dominion from 4,000 BC to the year 2000 AD. Genesis 1:28, Revelations 13:2. The return of the Draconians, right? Mutnanu, or Tanan'u. So when we're talking about the return of the Draconians or the reptilians, to decide whether the Mu'adamu Adamites will receive an extension of Waqut time is based on their vortex called a point of fateful encounters, over which the Mu'adamu Salau, the Adamite race, has no control. It's the intersection of the great circles of the elliptic cycle. This elliptic cycle. In the Draconian chart, the ecliptic plane of this Shamash sun, the equatorial 20 planes of this Mathar planet Earth, and the orbit of this Aha moon are all brought together. The Nawar light paths meet planet Earth for the Mathar Earth as a whole. That was in August, where we're coming to the year 2000, 1999. Yes, that was August 1999 AD, before we got to that year 2000. Because as you can see, the nines align. They came up from beneath the planet in Oman, Arabia, as Mudbab'u, Dabab'u. Quran 27 verse 82, Quran 42:29, Quran 24:45, Revelation 12:7-12, which is linked underground with the religious site of pilgrimage where they go for Hajj in Mecca, the holy city, to Mina's site, Shaitan Ur Kabir, big devil, okay, Ramyur Rajam, casting stones, and of 3 pillars called Ramyul Jamar, the throwing of pebbles at the pillars. So when you see people do Hajj, they take those pillars and they throw this stone. You can see it, and they call that stone Shaitan. Today, these pillars have been converted to 3 walls called Rami al-Jamarat. The walls were created because of the numerous casualties on the bridge due to these pillars, and many pilgrims were hit by other pilgrims throwing the stones from all directions. This way no one gets hit, and those previously killed by the frenzy pilgrims on the ramp do not get trampled on. In 2015 AD, the highest amount of pilgrims were killed during Hajj pilgrimage after being frightened as the beasts from the pit that the Arabs call Dabab Tuad Minal Ard. These beings were aroused from the large amount of damam, blood, from all the sacrificed animals. The 3 reptilian groups, right? Mudbab'u, that's 1. Lizards. Mutnan'u, dragons, that's 2. Mudgan'u, reptoids, 3. So these are 3 different types of reptilians or extraterrestrial or alien reptilians that were aroused because of the amount of blood during Hajj when they sacrificed these animals, right? And in 2015 AD, it was reported that a couple thousand people were killed. Yet 2 months later, it was reported 3 times the amount actually died, and their blood also went into the pit, which allowed them to be able to determine who is who, or all RH negative seeds on Mathar, Earth, and decided that the Mu'adamu Adamites would not receive an extension of a millennium, 1,000 more years, Shamut'at years, from the year 2000 AD to 3000 AD, which would be 6,000 Adam's calendar to 7,000. It was finalized on September 9th, 1999 AD, 9 to the 9th power of 9, sealed that the year 2000 AD was 6000 AC, Adam's calendar, their N, Waqut, time, and they were set to fade into Tanduf, extinction. So the Mutnan'u, reptilians, along with the Mukma'u, Pleiadians, have the Kakasnad'u, Caucasoids, or Mukasu, Caucasians, who have their people in Mayrap, Europe, and Amahia, America, requesting they find their roots by sending in their DNA and blood types, as well as setting up mates for others so they can continue what Hitler was raised to do: find their RH negative pure seeds and to eliminate the Mushjan'u hybrid they made, the true genocide to wipe out their own creation of Mushjan'u hybrids from Genesis 1:26-27 to Genesis 6 1 to 5 and on. So now they are fading away. The last race made by Mukrja'u, aliens they call gods. It is based on the draconian zodiac, the 12 zodiacal constellations along the great circle of the elliptic, where it ends. There it begins again. The occultists use it as eternal time cycle. So that circle, or when you see that circle where they show you like a snake that goes like that, and the snake biting its tail, right? The snake serpent with its own tail in its mouth, right? That's what we're referring to. So the 3 Euro zodiacs: 1, the sidereal; 2, tropical; 3, draconic. The Muthnan'u, Tanan'u, Mudbab'u, Dabab'u, reptilian and lizardian, Salalu races are tracking those with Rh negative factor Damam blood, and set to wipe out all the Rh negative Hajan'u hybrids. First was the elimination slowly of the first hybrids, those Kakasna'u, Caucasoids, Mukasu, Caucasian, whose traits are Labin Farar, white fur, white to silver iris of the eyes, pale fair-skinned hue. Next is the Safir Farar, yellow fur, blue iris of the eyes, ruddy fair-skinned hue. And lastly is the Hamir Farar, red fur, green eyes of the eyes, flush, fair freckled skin. The remaining Europe persons have dark fur, dark eye, and are ivory skin, and will be mixed into the other 3 Salalu races of 1, Nagarnadu, Negroids; Afafreyeka'u, Africans; 2, Drvad Nad'u, Dravidians, Dravidoids, East Indians; and 3, Nagal Nad'u, Mongoloids, Mungalu, Asians. Due to all of this mixing, a new race of neutrinoids was created. These are people who you look at and you cannot tell completely to which Salal race they belong to, and they look like many at the same time. The results were a mixture of humanoids who later were genetically mixed with Muthathalu extraterrestrials, causing a variety of Wu-Sabat chromosomes and blood types. All Huwan'u animals and living Huyeu creatures of Makab Matar planet Earth can breed if of the same Sanafu species naturally. So all humanoids should be able to mate regardless of Salal race. However, that is not the case. All right, I'm gonna stop there. But you know, this goes into the alien blood weapon genocide, where it's telling you about the bloodlines, the Rh positive bloodlines with the chromosomes, and yeah, this diagram goes into that and shows you how people evolved from the original Sans people, Wadzabi, and then showing you the other side with the Cro-Magnon and the Neanderthal. So if you can get hold of this Proverbs of Yaanuwn, it's amazing. It really goes in deep to what's going on right now. And we're going to have to leave it there. But remember, get hold of your own version and get hold of the copy of the Proverbs of Yaanuwn, because there's only one Yaanuwn, and his words are heavyweight. All right. Until next time, Wadu.